Today we're going to talk about something that I don't even think you can find on the internet anywhere, certainly not as a video that I'm aware of. But what we're going to talk about is the selector switch for a 1937 Terraplane that happens to have an electric hand and auto clutch on it. Now what we have here, a part on this towel that I'm going to use for assembly, happens to be the actual switch assembly itself. Now the reason the switch assembly is out is it came out of my pickup, which if you watched one of the pickup videos, you've already seen what the pickup looks like. But it has been having an issue with the second gear shift when you're using the electric hand. For some reason, it wants to actually pull it out of gear when you apply the accelerator, which it should not. It should keep it in gear. So I've been looking for what the problem might be. And I took the switch out of the car, and I found, of course, that it was dirty from its age. It had never been really restored. It was cosmetically restored, but never actually restored as far as the switch itself, because it was working. So now it's been taken apart, cleaned up, and some problems with wires fixed, and it's going to go back together. Now, as you'll notice here, we've got some heat shrink put on it. I didn't see any point, since none of these wires show on the car at all. There's no way to see them. I didn't see any reason not to just use heat shrink to solve it. Now one other thing that's been done here is there's a bright yellow and a bright white wire. I actually had to paint those. The wires were so close to the color of the brown wire that you could not tell them apart easily, and since I have to put it back together where I have to solder the far end when it's in the vehicle, I needed to be able to see those, so I did actually paint these. The white one's been painted with Floquil Antique White paint, that's a model paint, and the yellow one's been painted with Armor Yellow by Floquil so that we could see what they are. So this gives you all the original colors so you can actually see them. So you have a white, a green, a black, a red with a green tracer, a green with a red tracer, a blue, a red, a brown, and a yellow. So those are all the original colors in this particular selector switch. Now, something that's interesting is if you actually look in the Hudson manual, shop manual, to find out what wire colors you're supposed to have, that isn't what they say. So let's look at that here. And let me show you something here. This is an actual real shop manual that would have been held by a dealership back in the day. Complete leather bound, very, very nice. This one below it is the same thing, but it's just a photocopy that I got years ago. I like to use the photocopy one out in the garage because I can mess that one up. I don't want to mess up my good one. But we're going to show you the good one because you can actually see things in it. So we'll go over here to electric hand. And the electric hand section covers multiple years. So you can't look at it and say, oh, that's exactly which one I have. Certain years have certain things different about them. Okay, 1935 and 1936 models, it says right there. And you have to read through here and understand which year is yours. So we're going to flip over here a bit until we get to the right year section for what we want to look at. This is the 1936-37, so it's second 36. You notice there's two versions of 36. They told you there's a second 36 and the 1937 Hudson and Terraplane models. Well, we have a 37. It gives you serial number information and a full description of what's going on here with the actual system. But here's where a wrinkle comes in. Right here is a wire color code chart. Tells you have a red, a brown, a black with yellow tracer, white, blue, green with red tracer, green, and a red with green tracer. There's no plain yellow in there. There's this black with yellow tracer. We don't have that. We do not have a black with yellow tracer. The book doesn't do a real good job of explaining to you why that would be. But if you get to looking around in your book and find out that since my pickup actually has a vacuum clutch on it, we'll go to the vacuum clutch section. And the very back of the vacuum clutch section, relating to the vacuum clutch itself, you find out that you have 3 drawings here. And notice they talk about yellow wire, yellow wire. Yellow wire goes to the electric hand jack in the center pin, yellow wire to the shift rail switch, yellow wire to the governor switch. And it also tells you right here in this paragraph and shows you in this drawing that the yellow wire is going to the electric hand clutch ground switch, which is shown right here, 23 and 22, the shaft, and the clutch ground switch is 22. So you actually have to look at both sections to find out that a 1937 with a vacuum clutch should have a yellow wire, not a black with yellow tracer. So that's what this particular setup is for this car. Now what we're going to do is show you how this goes back together and what the various parts are. So first of all, as long as we had it off and we've done it, we've resprayed the body itself, and this is what it looks like. You won't be able to see all the details on a video. I don't even know if Trish can get down in here and show you that there is a slot right here. There's the slot, I'm pointing at it. That runs down the entire inside of this. That slot's important because that is actually the slot that this piece goes into right here. So the one I'm pointing to here, that's for that slot. That gets the orientation of most of the switch assembly proper in the actual housing. So to begin putting this together, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to take your shaft, and this is your shaft that's both insulated and non-insulated, depending on where it is. It's very special. It's got a little tab on here, and that tab's real important to you. You need to have a spring, and you have a little collar. So that's what you have to have, the shaft, the spring, the collar. And they go in here, and you notice there's a slot right there, and that is where we're going to put our tab on. So you put it down, so you see the orientation, it goes like that when you're going to put it back together. So we got that in. Now we can turn it up and you see it won't come out because I turned it so it won't be in line with the slot for the moment. So we've got the shaft installed in it. Next thing we've got to do is we got to look in the opposite end, and we got a spring right here. This spring goes on the back of this assembly. So this spring goes in next. So I drop it down, and I'm going to use a long nose pliers, put it down in there, because it sits down in the base like that. You can see where it is down there. That spring is going to maintain the tension to keep your switch operational. So you got to have that down in there. Now, next thing you've got to do, and I'm going to have to use a light. She's not going to be able to show you this, but I'm going to have to look down in here and get my tab where I can see it for when I'm putting this together. And there's my tab. Okay, I've got my tab right now about lined up. You see how I've got this? I've got this about lined up straight across. So the tab is in line with that. So now I've got to take this particular piece, which you see there's a slot in it. And the knobs or buttons, they go to the left. So we're going to take this particular piece and we're going to drop it down in here and try and line the slot. And to drop it in, you really need a long nose pliers. Now the goal is to get that aligned on that particular slot down there. And again, she probably can't show it to you because I'm going to have to look down it and see to it that I get it all lined up. And this can take some doing for a bit. Okay, let's see if we got that tab in there like I think we do. See the tab? If you can see it down there, you can see the screwdriver. The tab is in the slot. So I've got that assembled correctly. So next, we're going to hold that kind of in place for the moment. And we're going to set this down Now we'll verify we've still got it in a slot in just a second. Right now we're going to just set it. Next thing we're going to have, we're going to have this ring. This is a lock ring. The lock ring has to go around the end of the switch assembly. And it's easiest if I rotate this to pass that little bump. There we go. There's the lock ring in here. Now that lock ring is the only thing that's going to keep this in the housing when we're done. So the next thing we've got to do, keeping everything in alignment, now we've got our switch, which I'm going to verify again for myself that it's where it's supposed to be. Again, I'm going to have light. Okay, that's where it's supposed to be. We're going to slide this in. We've got the groove I told you about before, has to be set up to be aligned with the little tab on the assembly. And this is not the easiest thing to do. But when you get it right, it'll go down in like that. So you'll see I've got everything pushed in here. You'll see this is the black bakelite portion of the end of the wire assembly. You'll see that the lock ring is not currently in position yet, and that we've got to work it down the rest of the way. I'm going to actually pull it out so I can see what I'm doing. That's the problem with trying to show it to you, is that sometimes I have to sort of start over.